Yeah, so with that in mind, I am just going to talk a little bit about the Worker Center for the people that don't know us. We are an organization by and for workers. We provide education, we do advocacy for workers, and we're trying to build worker power here in Northeast Ohio. Our goal is to continue building worker power through organizing, but we also help people in matters of discrimination, retaliation, wage theft. So if you are having issues with any of those things or just want to talk to us about worker-related stuff, you can come see me or my coworker, Andy, who's in the audience right now, and we can help you out. Yeah. Now on to Craig.
Hey everyone, my name's Craig. I am the Energy Democracy Organizer for Cleveland Owns, and together with our friends at a bunch of different organizations like Forest City Tech Co-op, Rust Belt Riders, People's Plumbing, the Interreligious Task Force, and more, we form co-op circles. This is a coalition of co-ops and co-op supporting groups that are building a community of people who want to see co-ops of all kinds thrive, worker co-ops, housing co-ops, community-owned co-ops. We call that vision of an economic system grounded in cooperation rather than competition, the solidarity economy. And it's part of a global movement for a more just economy. So if we want to go to the next slide, let's talk a little bit why we're here. Which Ricardo, okay. We're working on it, it'll pop up. And if not, okay, great. So this is a photo from the rally in front of REI on May 16th. For folks who were there, can you raise your hand? See a couple of them in the audience. Heck yeah. Woo! And I wanted to start with this, both as an example of what can go wrong, right? REI is a co-op, it's a consumer co-op. Unfortunately, they have turned their back on what it means to be a cooperative, right? They have turned their back on democracy. Their board is controlled by corporate interests. Companies like Starbucks are on their board. Folks like you and I, unless you're a C-suite executive, can't run for the board. And in fact, workers can't run for the board either. So this co-op has been captured. It no longer represents what I think co-ops really are, right? They're democratic organizations that working people have built to provide what they need for their communities. This is done through solidarity, cooperation, social transformation, and subordination of capital to labor. Yeah. And so what we see here is a co-op that has turned its back on the cooperative movement. And we also see folks who are part of co-ops joining in with REI Union all across this country and here in Cleveland. We have stood in solidarity with the folks who are really fighting for the cooperative values, and that is the workers at the REI Union. And so as someone who's a member of the co-op community, as a worker at Cleveland Owns, I am proud to stand in solidarity with the workers at REI Union. And tonight, I want to talk a lot about the ways that unions and co-ops can build together and create the solidarity economy, create powerful organizations run and controlled by working people that can transform our country and transform our world. And so really excited to kick us off with that. And we'll go to the next slide. Cool. Ricardo?
Thank you, Craig. Tonight, we are going to have a few sections to our event. So we're going to have our speakers introduce some of the big concepts that we're talking about tonight. So most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with either one or the other, but potentially you're not familiar with how both unions and co-ops can work together. So we're just going to hear about each one of those models of organizing, and we're going to learn about how they can come together to support each other. Then we're going to have a discussion. We're going to open it up for more direct questions with each speaker. And finally, we're also going to have an audience Q&A. So you will have the opportunity to ask some questions as well. And we do encourage you to ask questions. Finally, we're going to have a little moment also to think about how we can move from what we're doing here today to our workplaces, our lives moving forward, actually taking these things and putting them into practice. So that is how we're hoping we're going to conclude the event tonight, with all of you having some good ideas of how you want to make your workplaces better and help unions and co-ops develop in your communities. We want to give a big thank you to Forest City and to everyone who helped set up. We want to give a big shout out to our tech team over here. I'd love a round of applause for them. Also to the group of people that helped plan this event, definitely to Craig. Craig, thank you for putting this together. Craig has been working really hard on this. And finally, I want to remind you as well to tip your bartenders and all the staff here. We want to treat the workers very well. Yeah, shout out to the bartenders. All right, without further ado, I'm going to pass it to Craig. And actually, we are going to have a little song to lift our spirits before we start.
Yeah, this is something, if you haven't been to a Co-op Circles event before, this is something we like to do. So I'll welcome Sia and Mark up to the stage. And they have a song they would like to lead us in.
Cool, we will. Hey everyone, I'm C. I'm with the IRTF, the Interreligious Task Force on Central America, worker-led collective, one of the co-founders of the Worker Center. I'm so proud of our workers at the Worker Center. And I'm here with Mark. Mark, what orgs are you representing?
A bunch. I'm also with IRTF. I am also a board member with the Northeast Ohio Worker Center. And I'm also here as a member of People's Plumbing Cleveland.
Cool. So, thank you. We like to start all of our solidarity circles with what we call a somatic moment, getting in our bodies, using our voices collectively to rise together, centering ourselves for a moment. And there's so many great labor songs. So we had a hard time picking one, but which side are you on is the one that we decided to go with. So I'll be singing the stanzas, and then Mark will be leading everyone in the chorus, which is, which side are you on, friends? Which side are you on? And we're going to repeat that twice in between each stanza. All right? And would you mind holding the mic? And I heard that you're supposed to sing into it to make sure the people online can hear too.
Got it.
Cool. Are you going to start us off from the pitch?
Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Sorry, I got the lyric wrong there. All our workers are not boys. Sorry. Which side are you on, friends? Which side are you on?
Let's practice.
Which side are you on, friends? Which side are you on?
Come all you good workers, good news to you I'll tell of how the good old union has come in here to dwell.
Which side are you on, boy, friends? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, friends? Which side are you on?
My daddy was a miner, he's now in the air and sun. He'll be with you fellow workers until the battle's won.
Which side are you on, friends? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, friends? Which side are you on?
They say in Harlan County there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Clare.
Which side are you on, friends? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, friends? Which side are you on?
Oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab, or will you be human?
Which side are you on, friends? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, friends? Which side are you on?
Don't scab for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Poor folks ain't got a chance unless they organize.
Which side are you on, friends? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, my
Friends, which side are you on? One more time.
Which side are you on, friends? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? Well done, y'all.
Thanks so much for that, guys. What a great way to start off. And on our next slide, we're going to start introducing, thank you for the claps online, our wonderful panel. And so you can't see him right now, but rest assured he is there, calling in from Cincinnati, Ohio. Flequer is a longtime sustainable energy advocate, entrepreneur, as well as immigrant and worker rights organizer. His passion stems from his experience of being a former undocumented immigrant, having grown up in a small family business, and in a country severely affected by climate change. He's proud to have graduated from the University of Cincinnati College of Business with a degree in finance. Flequer is the CEO and founder of Sustainergy Cooperative. Thank you so much. Sustainergy Cooperative, which is a worker-owned business in the insulation and solar industries. He is also the vice president and co-founder of the nonprofit co-op Cincy, which works to incubate a network of union worker-owned businesses in Cincinnati using the United Steelworkers Mondragon Cooperative Agreement or Corporation Agreement to build a solidarity economy. Flecker's originally from Lima, Peru. In his free time, he loves to travel, dance, volunteer in the community, and spend time with his family. And I can attest, he is a good dancer.
All right here to my right, we have Rob Witherell. Is that correct? Witherell? Okay, great. He works for the United Steelworkers in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he serves as an assistant director of the USW Collective Bargaining, Research and Benefits Department, coordinator of the USW Glass Industry Conference, and the USW's initiative in worker ownership, including formation of the Co-ops Council in 2024. Rob has been engaged in organizing, bargaining, training, research, benefits, and strategic campaigns within the labor movement for the past 30 years. In October 2009, USW International President Leo Gerard announced a formal collaboration MOU with Mondragon International to advance union co-ops in the United States and Canada. Rob was instrumental in framing and advancing this partnership. In 2012, Rob co-authored Sustainable Jobs, Sustainable Communities, the Union Co-op Model, integrating the union collective bargaining structure with worker-owned cooperative structures and adapting Mondragon's social councils to union bargaining committees. In 2014, Rob co-founded One Work, One Vote to advocate for union co-ops and advance the USW Mondragon partnership. He holds degrees from the University of Massachusetts Amherst in Business Administration and Labor Studies.
Right. And then I get to introduce Rose Electric, and there's 3 of them, so I'm going to read quickly. Iris is a proud member of IBEW Local 683, as well as a founding member of Rose Electric. She graduated. Iris, you want to wave? Oh, Iris? Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everyone knows who you are. Oh God, no. I mean, you are on stage. We're gonna talk about this a lot. So Iris is a second-generation union tradesperson following in her father's footsteps, who was a member of the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters 392. Growing up in a union home really set the precedent of workers' rights for Iris from a young age. She has dedicated herself to building a better world for working class through union activism, as well as her participation within the cooperative movement. And when not working, you can often find Iris in her art studio or camping with her husband and 2 Great Danes, Dahlia and Rodeo. Ooh, wow. And she is an avid mushroom forager and loves being out in nature. And then Victoria, yay! Victoria grew up in a small town about an hour east of here. She spent her 20s being very indecisive about a future career. After earning a couple degrees in psychology, she pivoted to childcare, and 5 years after that, she decided to get into the trades. She joined IBEW Local 683 in 2021 and has not looked back. Starting Rose Electric with Camryn and Iris has been one of the most terrifying and rewarding experiences of her life, and she wouldn't trade it for anything. And when she's not working, she enjoys reading, playing tabletop RPGs, and cooking for people. And then Camryn, Yeah. Process of elimination for that one. Was one of the founding members of Rose Electric in 2026. He completed his apprenticeship with the IBEW NEOWC Electric Trade Center and became a licensed State of Ohio electrical contractor in 2024. Camryn carries a lot of passion for the industry and has filled roles as a journeyman, wireman, a foreman, and a union steward. He serves multiple roles in this state of Rose Electric, and in his free time, he loves reading, gardening, and working on his truck. And together, they are Rose Electric, a worker-owned business rooted in community values and dedicated to providing top-tier electrical services. All right. Well, I'm super excited to hear from our panel. And we're going to have Flequer come up to tell us a little bit about unions.
Thank you, Craig, for having me. Thank you all for being here. Having some technical issues there, but I'm finally here. So Flequer Vera with Sustainergy, Cooperative, and Co-op Cincy. Very excited to see so many sisters and brothers of the movement building this new worker economy. I'm very, very excited. I wish I was there, but 3-hour drive with kids is slightly difficult, so I'll be there in spirit. So I can tell you a little bit about unions. So I cannot see the screen well, but how many people know about unions? How many have people, raise your hands if you had interaction with unions? Craig, you can tell me what you see there.
You know, I think we got a little over half, and some of the hands are a little tepid, but a little over half.
Okay, awesome, man, that's great. So yeah, a union is really you, me, us. A union is not a separate organization. The workers are the union, and when they work together, we bargain with our employers to improve our wages, to improve our standards, benefits, any type of disputes, hours that we work. That whole workers get power and make a better, a level playing field for workers to negotiate with their employers. So keep that in mind. A union is not a separate entity. It's a democratic organization, and you, a member, any new member can be a president of the union and lead that organization to the benefit of working class people. So it's important that you run, you get involved with the union, so we can shape it the way we want. So that's the union. I love Samuel Gompers, labor historian, that he describes the union as the arm that protects workers, which is why I love co-ops, because we are the other arm that allow an attack for workers. So we complement amazingly. What are some of the things? I mean, I got involved with the union. I was an undocumented immigrant in Cincinnati for about 7 years, and didn't work with unions in Peru where I was born. But I had here Local 75, UFCW, SEIU, Local 1, the sheet metal workers, and many more unions that were putting resources to stop the deportations for people that look like me. And they were putting a lot of resources on that. And I learned that unions were doing the right thing. Unions were amazing at building community. They were being amazing at organizing, getting legislators to have meetings with us. And that's something, an arm that is underutilized. And so, yeah, I mean, unions were definitely very vital for my own safety. So once I learned what a union stands for working class people on issues that affect us, I became a extremely unionist, if you can say that. Also, unions get involved with when the issue happened with David Huertas from SEIU and he was arrested. Unions were in the front line, SEIU and many more, to stop the abuse, kidnapping, and killing that was happening to brown and black people in Minneapolis and other places, of course, in California and so forth. So there's a lot that unions do for the community. Another last thing is especially building this new economy that we want to build, a worker economy. Unions are an amazing tool for political capital and resources that we have to our access. Probably the most powerful arm that working class people have. And it's important that we have in our portfolio. Don't give up that arm. That's extremely, extremely important. With that I stop. I really want to hear questions from people and see how we can help. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear what questions you might have, what unions or co-ops or both are good for your community. And with that, I stop.
Thanks so much, Flequer. And then I think we're going to go 2 slides forward, and we will pass it to our friends at Rose Electric to tell us a little bit about co-ops, since we got a mixed crowd here.
Hello. Oh, okay. Is it okay to stand up and turn around? Okay, sorry. Good evening. My name's Camryn, one of the worker owners over at Rose Electric here with Iris and Victoria. We're a new electrical contractor that is a worker-owned cooperative in Columbus. We're going to talk Co-op 101. Can I get next slide? Oh, there is? Okay. Okay, cool, wonderful. So let's start by defining exactly what a cooperative is. The International Cooperative Alliance defines it as an autonomous association of persons united voluntarily to meet their economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. In other words, a co-op is a business that is owned and controlled by its members, who in turn receive benefit from it. There are different sets of governing principles that a co-op can adopt. Rose Electric abides by the Mondragon principles. There are 10 in total, and unfortunately, we don't have the time to take a deep dive into all of them. And then, is it 2 slides ahead? Did I mess up? Okay. A couple I'll highlight are that members are actively involved in management decisions, and that co-ops promote and support training and continuing education of their members.
There are also different types of co-ops. Yeah, right here. So the most common, as you can see, all that orange, that's consumer co-ops. You might have guessed that the members are consumers. It makes up about 92% of all co-ops. Some examples include food co-ops, housing and utility co-ops, and credit unions. Producer co-ops, that's the next square there, it makes up about 5%. So that would be something like Ocean Spray. That's basically when you have a group of people who are all producing a similar product. They can group together and have like a larger market share. Next, at 2%, we have purchasing co-ops. So Ace Hardware is an example of that. You have all these like little hardware stores, but when they all band together, they can get better pricing, better availability. And then finally, our worker-owned cooperatives, like Rose Electric, is that tiny little sliver. It only makes up 1% of worker cooperatives, but it allows for worker-driven operations and equitable division of profit. So now we can chat a little bit about the difference between co-ops and a more like standard business. A traditional business structure has decisions made based on how many shares people have, or just like a small group of people at the top. In a co-op, each member has equal say and equal ownership. There are also differences in profit distribution. Traditional businesses tend to make decisions that distribute the maximum amount of profit to the people at the top. In a co-op, profits are shared fairly. So, for example, with Rose Electric, it's based on how many hours you work. And finally, a typical business has more of an inward focus. It's always going to be prioritizing growth and profits above everything else. A co-op tends to be more rooted in the community. When Camryn was talking about the governing principles, we tend to be more focused on giving back to the community, being rooted in the community, and more concerned about our members than about making money.
We're electricians, we can't really sit still. All right, so what are some of the benefits of a co-op? There are many, and once again, we don't really have time to dive into all of them, so here are just a few. First of all, because cooperatives are more engaged in their community, they tend to see a more loyal client base who's more willing to pass along those vital word-of-mouth recommendations. There are also tax benefits to filing as a cooperative. The state of Ohio has a special corporate filing for cooperatives that allows for eased taxation on profits that are being held to benefit the co-op's growth, as well as being set aside for members. We already discussed how the members steer the cooperative, and that style of governance leads to increased innovation, since ideas are flowing from all members instead of the same small leadership group. It also means members are more open to change, since the idea of change came from within them in the first place. Finally, cooperatives are hugely beneficial when it comes to job retention. Those creative ideas really come in handy when businesses face inevitable downturns, and members may also opt to collectively reduce their scheduled hours to ride out a slow period rather than go straight to a layoff. Next slide. And the last thing that we'll briefly touch on is decision making. There are many, many avenues a co-op can take to make decisions. Smaller co-ops, like us at Rose, may choose to have one decision-making group for policies, which includes all members, and allow for more individual autonomy for day-to-day operational decisions. Larger co-ops, like RER, may have periodic elections where each member gets a vote, but those who are elected make the majority of the decisions. Harkening back to the governing principles, keep in mind that one member, one vote is one of the most important values. Co-ops seek to have power distributed more evenly rather than hoarding it all up at the top. We found a great deal of inspiration from the governance style of sociocracy, but it is ultimately an individual decision. As long as you're honoring the cooperative principles and working toward the mission of your organization, how you choose to make decisions is up to you. And that's all we have here for you today. But please don't hesitate to get in touch if you have any questions or want to reach out at all.
Thank you, Rose Electric. Toss to them and to Flequer. Finally, we're going to have Rob tell us about unions and co-ops together. Take it away, Rob.
All right. Hello, everybody. So before we get into unions and co-ops specifically, just to highlight, there are all sorts of co-ops out there. Like our union, we're going to talk about worker-owned co-ops mostly tonight, but our union has organized rural electric co-ops, producer co-ops, member co-ops across the US and Canada. So there's a big variety out there, and there's a big variety of unions out there, just like the IBW and the USW are different setup, different structure, different industries, but we can get into that more as part of the discussion. So one of the things that I really like to start with talking about unions and co-ops is that these are basically branches of the same tree, both rooted in the same labor movement and the concepts of solidarity and social justice. Because without those things, everything else just is there. So those are really what feed us and help us grow. And give us our identity. But as the same tree, different branches. And those branches have grown apart over the years. And so we're trying to focus on how we bring them back together. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so to start with a few things about why should unions care about co-ops? Go ahead. So the first part is for unions, for union workers, our current employers, a co-op, it's partly about job security. We are less likely to offshore our jobs because we can make a widget 5 cents cheaper over to China, to Mexico, wherever. So it's about having and prioritizing people over profits. Good. Part of it is better work life, and that is a lot of our members are very proud of their jobs, but there are also a lot of members that are there to punch in, do very routine things that aren't very rewarding day after day after day, and go home. And so the idea that maybe you could exercise ownership on your job rather than just function as a cog in the machine is more rewarding for life overall. And I think interesting in terms of where unions are at these days, how we organize workers. Over the last 90 years, we have really kind of focused on this very narrow National Labor Relations Act window. But there's lots of workers that are outside of that. And so how do we reach those workers? How do we help them organize and attain more power? Yeah. So why should co-ops be interested in unions? So the first part, go ahead, is solidarity, right? Part of it is just that being rooted in social justice, that we share these principles. Next part, go ahead, is that network and intercooperation. So this is, I think, an area which is worth exploring a little bit in maybe a context outside of my union specifically. So the taxi cab drivers in Denver, probably 10 years ago, decided that how could they organize their own business without having to get medallions through the state that were worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? How could they work for themselves rather than for somebody else? And by organizing with the CWA there, they were able to connect through the CWA's membership to lobby the state and to lobby the city to be able to get the approval for those medallions to be able to do business in there. So that connection to all the other union members in their area, to other union members that do the similar work, that gave them power that they would not have otherwise had. All right? Go ahead, couple. So we'll talk about this in a second, but access to more affordable benefits. Part of being part of a union is that you are in a very big group, and we use that very big group size to get affordable benefits. So I joke about it as come for the more affordable healthcare, stay for the solidarity, but it is a real thing because having access to lower cost benefits, having access to pension funds, those are things that, especially for smaller employers, are just way too far out of reach. Yeah? Yeah, keep going. So those are just some of the examples: healthcare, disability insurance, pensions. And then another example would be access to expertise. So that one of the things as a small employer, if you need legal help, if you need accounting help, if you need tax help, if you need benefits help, those are expensive to go and find. But as a union, because we have so many members, we're able and need our own in-house experts. I am one of our union's benefits experts. Ask me a question about healthcare, I can probably answer it. So that's one of the things that I do in my day-to-day job of one of the many hats I wear besides co-ops. Go ahead. So another piece of why co-ops might be interested in unions is better access to participation and ownership, especially if you're in a large co-op. And one of the things for Mondragon, which is like the world's largest co-op or co-op of co-ops, has always been there's there's those above and those below. So how do worker owners exercise their ownership? How do they advocate for themselves as workers? So being able to do that more than just an annual vote, but really more on a day-to-day basis is really important. So being able to have that advocacy and those guardrails so that you're protected when you do advocate for yourself. Okay. So the last piece on this part would be the guardrails of a contract. I like to think of it as you drive along a road, you see guardrails up along the side of the road all over the place. Most of the time, those things have been sitting there for decades, untouched, and you go, why did they put all that money and effort into putting that there? And maybe it doesn't seem like it's worth all the hassle. But then You come across one that's just all mangled, and thank God that guardrail was there, because that may have saved somebody's life. That's the same thing with a union contract. Having just cause, having the ability to arbitrate disputes that you can't otherwise resolve. It's an important safeguard and guardrail for co-ops to have. So the next piece I was going to talk about before I wrapped up this part is really kind of the functionality of how do unions and co-ops work together, like just on a database basis. Like, how do you actually set up that structure? And for like a big employer, a big co-op, for most part, you're still going to have managers that are elected or appointed that deal with the day-to-day stuff. You're still going to have people that are doing the work, the shop floor work on a day-to-day basis. So in that case, it really does look like a very traditional employer. And so this is a way of those folks to, for the workers to be able to have their own union committee, to be able to engage with the management and have more of a voice on a day-to-day basis. Nothing too surprising there. But what if you have maybe 10 people in your co-op? Maybe it's a very flat horizontal co-op and there is no manager. How does that work? Does it work? Do you need it? And I would say that part of the reason why it is helpful is because even if it is a very small group, sometimes discussions and arguments can become very personable. So that if we have different opinions about, I like to think about vacation time in terms of this context. You know, I have a family, I have kids, I need the time off, it's stressing me out, I'm burning out, I need time off. Somebody else maybe doesn't have kids or family. They're not burning out, they just want to work and make that co-op grow and succeed. There's a tension there, right? Is that person going to think I'm lazy because I need time off? Or am I going to think they're a workaholic because they don't want any time off? But if we take that out of that personal context, we say, look, we're going to have a committee that works to resolve those types of discussions. But one person will wear the hat and advocate for worker owners as owners, looking out for the best interests of the co-op. And another person will advocate for worker owners as workers, thinking for the best interests of us as people, right? Not just as owners. That allows for a better discussion, more constructive conversation. So that even in those very small circumstances, functionally it makes sense. And then you add all those other things on, like access to benefits and access to expertise, and solidarity with all the other people in your industry or in your region to help advocate for you. Here we go, we're back. So there's the very flat worker owner structure. Go ahead. And there's the idea of a small union co-op with somebody taking kind of the role within a committee of being, I'm going to be the manager in this discussion, and I'll be the union advocate in this discussion. All right, one more. All right, so come for the healthcare, stay for the solidarity. Just a couple specific examples of why this makes sense. So our Steelworkers Health and Welfare Fund has been a big draw for a lot of co-ops in the last year or so. And this is because we take these small groups, and initially the quote's based off of like age and where you live primarily. But then as you renew, you are renewed as part of a much larger group. So if you have one person in your very small group that gets really sick and needs a lot of care, in other circumstances that would be devastating for access for healthcare for everybody in your small group. In this case, it's not, right? Because it's spread out over tens of thousands of other members, so that it's much more consistent, prices stay lower. And our union's a little bit different than most that offer healthcare benefits to their members. Ours is a fund that an employer can sign up for, but it's all passed through to Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, who actually provides the insurance, determines what the premium is, the whole 9 yards. But that's a way to access those benefits that we can't in a lot of other situations. And I think that's it for my piece.
All right, thanks for that. Terrific. And let's get Flequer up there real big. And I think we'll start off the discussion with a question for Flequer. I was curious about a little bit about the history with Sustainergy, and why did you and your worker owners want to unionize?
Yeah, thank you. To hear it was great to hear the awesome speakers before me, and thank you for what you say. It was very inspiring. For us, my background is in I was a community organizer, mainly through faith and unions. And while unions do an amazing work at organizing, it felt that the system is designed to make working class people fail when you organize, when you stand up for your employers, and then you get crushed many times. You don't always win. People get fired, and it's a big risk. And even when you won, still you have locally you have the union can help you leverage more, but you still don't control the job. So for me, or for a lot of people in Cincinnati, was we can have a piece of the pie or we can own the pie. Like somebody said before me, Rob said before me, we are no machines. We don't have to get a few bucks to do what we want. Business are our people. We are the worker. We are the people. We create a profit. Makes sense that we run the business. We benefit from that wealth creation. Yeah, that's the main reason why we wanted to organize.
All right. Sorry about that. And then Rose Electric, similar question, but kind of the other way around. I know you guys started out as union workers, but why did you choose to start a co-op?
Is it still on? Okay, great. Yeah, the answer's there's kind of two parallel answers to that. On the one hand, and I think I'll speak broadly for the three of us here, but the three of us all came up through the IBEW and the apprenticeship program, which is a 5-year long work study course. You go to school 2 nights a week and then you work in the field for 40 hours or 90 hours, whatever it is, and so from that standpoint, the IBEW in terms of training and opportunity has, prior to Rose Electric, given me everything that I have had in my career. All the expertise and all the training and all the knowledge about the industry. And so there's that aspect to it. There's a certain degree of, loyalty that I, hold to the IBEW. And then on the other hand, there, from the business perspective of it is, the IBEW is an old organization. Our local, just this past year, celebrated 100 years of opening its doors. And actually, fun history, the history of unionized electrical workers in Columbus is maybe 20 years older than that. The history is not very well documented, but because it's that old, there's so much institutional knowledge within the IBEW that carries a lot of value to both its members and the employers. So our local IBEW office has been nothing but helpful through this process, nothing but supportive, from helping us get the state licensing that we need in order to start the company to now referring work to us somewhat frequently, which is super fantastic. There's just so much support, and so that relationship I think is invaluable.
Thank you. We're gonna ask a question now for Rob and for Flequer. Can you tell us about a time you realized that the labor movement needed to be stronger by uniting with co-ops. Let's start with Rob, and then we'll move on to Flequer.
So I think when I first got interested in co-ops was during the financial crisis in 2008. And in 2008, you saw lots of job losses, like always news of some new layoff someplace, some new plant closing someplace. Honestly, I've probably done more effects bargaining over plant closures than anybody else in my union over the last 5 years, which is sad. It's depressing and terrible. But we are altogether probably 10% of the workforce as union members, including public sector, including trades, everybody. That number keeps dropping, and playing by the rules that we've played by for the last 90 years isn't working anymore. So if we're going to build worker power, we've got to figure out a different way. And to me, co-ops seem to be one way to create more sustainable jobs, more rewarding jobs, and build that solidarity.
Thank you. Flequer, do you need to hear the question again, or are you good?
Please, please.
Okay, so can you tell us about a time you realized that the labor movement needed to be stronger by uniting with co-ops?
Yeah, I think also my first comment on the like owning your jobs, owning the means, and I think that the union does an amazing job protecting and providing benefits, and the co-op can do an amazing job of organized people or organized profit. That's power, right? The co-op can have the organized labor, organized profit to build working class power, and I strongly believe that in people or profit, and is rarely seen. And we're not going to see it unless we own the profit, unless we own the jobs, and then we can make determine what's important. I was very inspired by what the Steelworkers did with Mondragon in 2008, Rob. Correct, 10. I'm sorry, 10, I think. When they made the Steelworkers Mondragon agreement, that was such a humongous vision to import that successful business model to the U.S. and replicate that here, right, in Cincinnati, in Cleveland, and so forth, around the country. I think that type of research, that type of resources that you can have, that you need to have to do something as big as that, can only be done by organizations like the unions, like the Steelworkers, that have that longevity and those resources. And I think that if unions don't, playing by the rules is not working out well, unfortunately, being proactive, I'm thinking of creative ways so we can build the membership and also build power with the working class. I think is important, and cooperative is definitely a strategy to work with unions on that. In our experience, every time we do we're in business for 13 years. There were 20 plus people, and every time we have a bargaining negotiation, it's always easy. The books are shown, there's a lot of financial literacy and open book management done at Sustainergy and most co-ops, so the workers know how much we all have, how much we are losing. So when you meet with the union rep, it's just a formality. We already know what we want and what we can afford. Hasn't been one story is that we were told by our rep that we were the second fastest negotiation meeting in the history of their local, and it was a couple minutes. And the first one was a shop that had been there forever, and they didn't change anything. So that's how friendly and how the dynamics of the union with the business is an ally. It's an ally, and I think I'm excited that the unions and co-ops are working more closely for the last several years. Again, since we had this a lot in the late 1800s, where there were thousands of co-ops and unions done by the Knights of Labor.
Thanks, Flequer. Yeah, I kind of wanted to build on that because hearing about that contract negotiation process, that's yeah, even it's different from the contract negotiation processes I've been in. And I'm going to need everyone to hold their booze. But Flequer, as a boss, thank you for your restraint. As a boss, how has a union helped you as management in your co-op? And I'm curious, like, how do you decide who wears what hat, and like how you move towards those, like, you know, friendly and efficient and knowledgeable bargaining sessions?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a boss. Everyone tells me what they need, and that's what I feel like everyone tells me what they need and what to do. I'm the CEO, so yeah, I mean, one big thing is having this collective bargaining agreement template. The unions have this amazing process. How does someone get terminated in a fair, clear manner? It's just easy. We don't have to think or reinvent the wheel. We have that process. We adopt it. For us, for example, it is a lot of something is not working out well. You do a lot of conversation, feedback, and then verbal warning, written warning, and then probation or suspension, and then the person fire themselves. That's how I see it. The people do it fire. They have the opportunity, they get the support, the tools, and ultimately they fire themselves. But you get that clear documentation. Because, you know, I'm an immigrant, former undocumented immigrant, community organizer, and most CEOs are not like that. So I have this passion for justice, but as we grow and we have different CEOs, people in a position just elected, I won't be a CEO forever. Then you have systems in place to protect workers and just reinforcing mechanisms to make sure that democracy stays. It's not out of just the leadership, but actually we have a legal contract that reinforces that. And that's so important because if people don't feel that they own the co-op, people don't feel that they are treated, they have a voice, they're treated with respect, it's not a co-op. And people won't be able to produce more, as typically we see in co-ops. People tend to produce more for our clients, tend to take care better of the tools, the trucks, you know, than a traditional business, a traditional worker, because, you know, you own the means. And that protection helps to build trust with the workers. And it's just about trust. You have trust, takes forever to build it, and you can lose it so quickly. And but unions help with that part of it. There's a process, and right now we have a lot of people that are minorities and people of color and so forth. You know, things can change. And even even within immigrants, sometimes you're like, everyone is from Mexico and they don't like the Guatemalan, you know, whatever. In a very chauvinistic trade like construction, right? There are very few women, and so they can be oppression towards those. So the union actually can bring that the body and that protection to our workers. So yeah, I'm so excited and so grateful that the union provides that structure. There are many other examples. I mean, they open the doors to meet with legislators. Hey, Mr. Mayor, you know, our friends from Co-op Cincy want to speak to you about this opportunity, and they open the door for us. We go there. We have access to, well, the IBW provides a lot of skilled labor. Now in construction, you control labor. You can do whatever you want. You can get any job you want. So the unions have amazing apprenticeship programs. Yeah, the collective bargaining agreement is my favorite, but there are many other benefits.
Thank you, Flequer. One last question, and then we'll move on to our audience questions. So have those ready. Be thinking about those. This is a question for Rob and for Rose Electric. Let's start with Rose Electric. So what do you tell your union brothers and sisters, you know, not just Rose Electric, but in the world, union brothers and sisters, when they say that worker ownership is pie in the sky, too good to be true?
So I don't really hear too many people saying it's too good to be true. A lot of people are afraid to do it. A lot of people are afraid to make the jump and don't fully understand exactly how a co-op is supposed to operate. We're used to the hierarchical power structure, and this completely flips the table on its side. So what I hear from a lot of people when I kind of explain it and break it down, they're like, that sounds so doable. That sounds so attainable. It sounds like I could do that too. So I think a lot of what we're doing is spreading a message of power.
Rob, you want to take a stab at that one?
I would say my experience within the Steelworkers has been similar, that people don't necessarily understand it and how it works and why it works. But when they start asking questions, it gets to, okay, that sounds really good, to, oh, well, what happens if things don't work out very well? And that's the inherent piece of worker ownership, right? You're owning the good with the bad. You're taking the risk. You're doing more for yourself, but it is more rewarding overall. It is not. It's not just going along for the ride and punching in and punching out every day, but that there is a bigger reward to it all. And that, it's a challenge, but it's a good challenge.
Thank you. We are now going to open it up for some audience questions. So who wants to come on up or raise their hand? There we go. Oh, you're going to pass it around.
Hi, thank you for this discussion. I am a supporter both of unions. I'm currently involved in the unionization effort myself, and I'm a supporter of co-ops. But I have to admit, I don't get it. If workers truly own a business, then they decide working conditions. And setting aside how a union entitles you to access to benefits that you couldn't get otherwise, which I'm sure is a huge benefit, I still don't understand why workers who own a business would also want to unionize. Let's take a group of a dozen people who own a business. They form a union. They're the same people. So who's bargaining with who? And what are you bargaining over? I still don't get it. And what it sounds to me is that unionization in a co-op setting is meant to address the corruptions of a co-op model as opposed to the co-op model itself. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, because I'm really confused about why people who own a business feel the need to unionize, aside from access to benefits that they might otherwise not be entitled to.
I'll be happy to respond, unless somebody else want to jump in before me. So that's a great question, and always like in a you would think like why you want to have a union, right? And that's a very fair question. But what I've been doing co-ops since 2010, and when we go to conferences, and somebody said in the right that the unions tend to be co-ops tend to be like smaller businesses, and when they are very small, people's stories, there's trust is easier. But as you grow, I've seen co-ops of 10, 12, 13 people, and then there's a disparity between floor workers, white collar workers, nationalities, sex, beliefs, whatever. And then those things can oppress the minority. And you would think it does not happen, but it happens very, very easily. So I think it's important to have an arm that can protect those workers at all the time. And you had in Mondragon in Spain, you had the largest network of worker-owned businesses in the world. Their sales are like 23 billion euros a couple of years ago, billions with a B, and they make pieces for trains and cars. You have workers striking against themselves because they grew so much that they were like, okay, the manager workers, the white collar workers were not thinking about safety and were not thinking about training and those type of things. They were thinking in the bottom line, which is how they're supposed to work. But when there's a big disparity, then there are issues that the co-op gets dissolved fundamentally. If workers don't see themselves as owners, then there's no co-op. And the other one is to build the new economy. And I think the data shows that I think 85%, 90% of contribution from unions go to progressive causes, right? Black Lives Matter, Planet, Me Too movement, all those things, those progressive small candidates. And if we want to build this new economy, it's important that we support these candidates, and the unions are an amazing arm to do that. So when we pay our 1.5% in dues, we get all the benefits that Rob and other people mentioned, but we also being part of this larger movement, supporting local candidates that are going to advance a more progressive working class agenda.
Yeah, thanks, Flequer. The couple things. One is for a small group, I think, really to take out the personalities and be able to think through in a much more structured way to reduce kind of that personal conflict that's inherent. Anytime you get a group of people together, we're people. We have those kind of good things and bad things about all of us. But the other piece is, if you think about cooperative principle number 6, cooperation among cooperatives, especially if you're a small cooperative, it's really hard. There isn't really a good structure for cooperatives to work together, to have that solidarity. And whether it's access to benefits or access to lobbying or access to whatever it is, by joining a union, that really facilitates that cooperation among cooperatives.
One other thing I would add also is that, like, for us getting started, our union has provided us with tons and tons of resources that we would not otherwise have. So we've gotten access to, here's a client who's looking for a smaller contractor. We have fantastic educators at our school who have, helped Camryn study for his contractor's test. And we just had one of our old teachers go over a bid we were about to submit to make sure it looked okay. So the resources that we get through our union are also incredible.
Yeah, and a single cooperative isn't going to be able to, for me, this is a big part of it is ideological. I don't think a single cooperative is going to be able to make the kind of change in the industry, in the construction industry that I would like to see. So being part of a large organization that has a lot of institutional knowledge and does a lot of advocacy on the state level and on the federal level for stuff like workplace protections and safety policies. Like, it's good. I think it would be generally good for the cooperative movement and the labor movement to work hand in hand on those issues, and I think that holds a lot of value.
I'm thinking about worker apathy, and I'm thinking about how the ultimate goal of building a cooperative, at least in my mind, is to overthrow capitalism. It's for workers to own the means of production. And I'm curious to know how, when you're in a unionized workplace, how do you pop that question? Like, really, we should be the ones in charge. Yes, a union is a great way to interface with the existing power dynamic between boss and workers, but we need to take it to the next level. How do you approach those conversations with your colleagues?
I'll jump in. So what we have going on is we have less of a boss-worker relationship. We're completely laterally structured. So our union isn't just there to represent the workers versus the bosses or vice versa, because we're all union members, we're all workers. So really, we benefit from the union because it kind of fills in the gaps where the cooperative structure isn't. They have a little bit more of a corporate kind of vibe to them, right? We've got our contracts and all of that good stuff, and that kind of fills in some of the extra space. But we keep everything very lateral and everything very equal.
So I feel like I absolutely agree with what Ira said, that the unions tend to be a little bit more of a corporate structure, and I think that that's part of what like having co-ops is so important, because right now Rose Electric is the only worker co-op in Local 683, but you can imagine if half of the contractors in 683 were co-ops, then it might look a little different, that the 683 leadership might be a little less. I won't finish that sentence. They'd be chill. They'd be chill.
Just a real quick follow-up on that. One piece would be that, our union has kind of been involved in employee ownership for a long time. And when it was like an employee stock ownership plan, it served its purpose, but ownership didn't mean more than a share, so nobody cared about it. But I would say the flip side of that is that the people that are catching on are the venture capitalists, the KKRs of the world, who are creating these nonprofits called Ownership Works and are acquiring companies, convincing workers that they are owners and should do everything they can to make the company succeed. And then when they flip the company and load it down with debt, the workers get about 3 or 4% of the total payout. Life-changing money for them, because it could be a couple $100,000, but it's still just a fraction of the payout.
Great. Let's take a question over there. I'm not sure where the orange mic is. Oh, no, we would love. Yeah, here, I'll run it over.
So I thought I heard you say 11.5% is the cost. What's like, say for instance, if you make $20 an hour, what is the cost to be a part of the union? That's my first question. So what's the cost?
Which one?
What's the cost if you make $20 an hour?
For the steelworkers,
If you join
the steelworkers, our dues are 1.45%.
No, I'm sorry, not the steelworkers, just the union co-op.
RBW.
So if you're part of like Rust Belt Riders or some other company like that.
There's no cost other than union dues.
I mean, what is the union dues? I just want to know.
It varies by union. For our union, it's 1.45% of earnings, plus 2 cents per hour work for our organizing fund. I don't know what it is for the IBW.
Our union has 5% working dues.
Okay, and that's 5% of your gross salary or gross hourly wage?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and then my second, go ahead.
And then also, nobody makes $11 an hour. The wages don't get that low for us.
Okay, all right. So in terms of benefits, like you have the representation as it relates to bargaining for health care, for other things besides, safe working conditions and so forth. What are the other benefits that are not necessarily directly directly related to representation with company? If any. And then I have one more question. Okay. Well, wait, don't answer that question. I forgot the last question. That's all right. I forgot the last question, but I was just trying to understand more about, in terms of unionization. So I've worked on both sides of the fence. The gentleman with the previous question about, he didn't get it. I understand you now, but I side with him. If you work, especially in places where we're cooperatives, where people are very collaborative, why would you need such a union if you're a worker owner? But okay.
Before we get there, I just wanted to say we'll do one more question after this one from a new person, and then we'll move on for the sake of time, because a lot of our panelists spent 2 hours to get here. Do 2 more questions? Oh, yeah. One here, and then we'll do one online. That's a great question. Okay, but let's finish with hers, and then we'll move to the next one.
Real quick, for us, I would say another example of why being part of the union is important. So a number of co-ops and co-op-related organizations, nonprofits in the Northeast have recently joined our union, and so we're creating a new local for them, Local 9007, and that's a way for them to cooperate, right, to work together. Almost half of the dues go back to their local, so that helps them, go to conferences, go to trainings, promote their union, promote their local, however they need to. But really, it's been interesting bringing these different groups together to understand how they can help each other in ways that they have not connected before.
And I would say that the benefits, the pension, the annuity, the healthcare, amazing, right? Like we're the skilled trades. Like we've got a fantastic package. But beyond that package, what we get is solidarity. When you're on a union job site, and I'm in the trade, so we're construction workers, can be a little rough. When you're on a union job site, people will zipper merge, leaving the parking lot at the end of the day. You're not stuck in traffic because your brother, your sister, your sibling is letting you out as well. And you can see the difference when you're on a unionized job site versus a non-union job site. There's a lot more compassion, kindness, patience. So those are all really, really big benefits within the union that go beyond the package. So like Rob said, come for the benefits, stay for the solidarity. It's true.
All right, we'll do one more question in person, and then do we have anything online? Okay, we'll just do one question in person. And then, yeah.
Hi, guys. My name's Kevin Martin. I got a question. I've been in the union for 23 years, construction trades as well. Got in right out of high school when I was 17. Able to retire at 55, 14 years, which is great. And to start a co-op, my question is depending on how many employees you guys have, if it's a handful, if it's 5, 10, I think that's wonderful. But my question is, say you get larger, up into 50 people, and then work gets slow and you have to lay people off. How do you guys deal with that? What happens at that point to where you don't have enough work to sustain 50 people working in lieu of, say, 10, and everybody's a part owner of the company and you're not bringing in the money and the profits? How do you guys sustain at that point?
Let's start with Flequer. He's got his hand up. Lumen above you.
Excellent. So no, yes, that's a great question. I mean, I can share a story. When COVID happened in Sustainergy, we have a lot of people that didn't qualify for unemployment. And so we didn't lay anyone off. How can you lay the owners off? So what co-ops typically do, it's you reduce wages collectively, you reduce hours collectively, and you keep people employed. And it's as simple as that. And another thing that our co-op does, 30% of our net income goes to the worker owners. 70% of the net income every year stays back into the co-op, and that belongs to every single worker owner. So we have a strong cash reserves. And when COVID happened, we didn't have to lay anybody off because we have strong cash reserves. Now we do solar, and in solar, that early this year was poorly done. We were thinking a lot of business around the country went out of business doing solar because the incentives expired. And we're still struggling right now. The demand is increasing rapidly locally, but we have a strong cash reserve. So it's just the way you use the resources. In a typical business, you think about capital first, to survive the business and protect your capital. In a co-op, typically, naturally, when you have the culture of people over profit, you want to be frugal with your money, but if you have the profit, distribute it with the workers and keep the people employed. Ultimately, it's cheaper to spend that money than hire new folks and train them and then hurting your reputation and not doing the work, not doing the skilled labor that you need when you have the work. So cash reserves is a big one. And then typically co-ops lower their wages, lower their hours, and keep people employed, preventing them from going to unemployment.
Okay. Rob, do you want to add?
So one other little piece to that would be the example that Mondragon has set, that even though they are a very big corporation and they try to avoid layoffs at all costs, sometimes they have to do it. But one of the things that makes them strong is this intercooperation between their cooperatives. So that if somebody has to get laid off from one cooperative, there are other cooperatives that will take them on if they can. And so ultimately, even when they've had big layoffs, nobody has ultimately been laid off.
That's awesome. Thank you. Some really, really interesting responses. Please, let's give a big thank you to our speakers up here. Yeah, hand of applause. It's been awesome getting to hear from all of you, and I kept coming up with more questions I wanted to ask, which is good because we're going to have a little bit of time to network after this, or a lot of time. I mean, you can stay here talking, drinking for as long as you want till they kick us out. But yeah, in the meantime, just to send us off, we're going to talk a little bit about how we can get organized. So if yeah, we're just going to bring it up here. Yeah, and you can clearly see it up there next to Flequer. There we go. So if you liked what you heard about unions and you're union curious, but you're a little shy or you don't know how to talk to your coworkers, talk to Andy or talk to me. Talk to someone at the Worker Center, or there's so many great people around here, but that is what we do for a living. So reach out to us. My email's up there, and we're also just hanging out here after, so you can come talk to us. If you want to start a co-op.
Yeah, if you want to start a co-op, talk to us at Cleveland Owns. You can email us at info@clevelandowns.coop. We also have office hours coming up 2 Tuesdays from now. On the 9th of June from 6 to 8, come by our office. We're going to be chatting with folks. Bring your ideas, bring your passion. We're going to be having a nice relaxed time, chatting about how you can make a co-op of your own. I also encourage every co-op, and this is something that Cleveland Owns does, and many of the co-ops we work with have taken a pledge for labor neutrality. Our friends at the U.S. Federation for Worker Cooperatives have been leading this, asking co-ops to extend a hand to our friends in organized labor and say that as a co-op, we will be neutral on the topic of whether the workers here want to form a union. This is a widely held standard, and I think is important for every business, but especially cooperatives, to say to their workers that it is up to you to form a union, and whatever you choose, we will bargain with you in good faith. It would certainly have prevented a lot of the ire that the workers at the REI union felt in the last 4 years. And so I encourage everyone to take that proactive step. And I know Cleveland Owns, I'm very proud we already have. And then the next slide. We got some upcoming events. Ricardo, do you want to tell us about stuff happening at the Worker Center?
Yeah, there are some fun events coming up. We have our next book club, which is going to be The Origin of the Family, Private Property, and the State. So if you're curious about any or all of those institutions, we're going to be meeting here on Tuesdays, June 2nd through July 7th. And then we also have our first Solidarity Social, where we're going to be celebrating some of the LGBTQ organizers in Cleveland and even beyond. We have some special guests traveling here to meet us. There's going to be a panel at Crowbar with dancing to follow after. So that's going to be Sunday, June 2nd, 8 p.m. till late at Crowbar.
Love to see an event with a question mark at the end. And then the next slide, some co-op events coming up. One I'm really excited about is Co-op U, coming from early September to mid-November. This is a 10-week course that my colleague Bogdan has led for several years now. It's a deep dive into co-op incubation and helping you and your team get your co-op off the ground. It is a fantastic course, and I highly recommend everyone check it out. And then Solar School's coming up. This is something that we're doing to help folks get ready to develop community on solar. So while I'm passionate about unions, I'm also the energy democracy organizer, and I help folks build community on solar. This is to help folks understand what that means. And when you're walking down the street, you see a building like this, maybe you see an empty lot and you think, hey, could a solar array go there? This will help answer that question. And so check it out at clevelandowns.coop/events. We're starting June 23rd for 6 weeks, and we'll have a location soon. And then if you loved a Solidarity Circle, come to the June Co-op Circle. This one's going to be on cooperation culture, and it's going to be Thursday the 25th from 6 to 8. We'll be at our regular haunt, Pilgrim UCC over in Tremont, and I hope to see all y'all there, as well as some other folks. And then our last slide is about how to help our friends at the REI Union. I think one of the #1 things you can do post their 10-day boycott of the anniversary sale. I know a lot of folks are out there. Find the good fight for them. Definitely go to rrei.com to learn more. Sign up. I think you still sign the boycott pledge, but make sure you stay up to date. They're also asking folks to email the board with the subject of bargaining in good faith, something REI should definitely do. And make sure you send actual decision makers to the table so you can actually bargain in good faith. So start your email off with that, and then let REI know what you think of them as a co-op. And then we're also looking for some environmental organizations and leaders to help pledge your support with REI. So Jennifer, can you raise your hand back there? That's Jennifer, one of the leaders at the REI Union. And if you want to learn more, go talk to her. And I think that was our last slide. And so I just want to again thank everyone. C, you have something you wanted to pitch? Okay, let me run the mic to you.
Sorry, thank you. We also love to celebrate and joy in our resistance as well. So if you're interested, please join us. The IRTF Latin Dance is going to be June 13th, a Saturday evening after Parade the Circle, and that will also be held at Pilgrim from 8 to 11:30 p.m.
That sounds great. So definitely go to all those and see, can you send me the details and I'll email it out. And I just wanted to again thank all our panelists for taking the time out of their evening, and especially the ones that are here in person who drove about 2 hours each way to be here with us tonight. So please give them a round of applause. And if they're trying to inch towards the door, please let them inch toward the door and get home at a reasonable hour. But thanks everyone for joining us this evening, and I look forward to having another drink with y'all. And everyone online, thank you so much for being here. If you want emoji, react, but we're about done. All right.